Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video we will talk about structure streaming, how we can process the streaming data into the using pyspark in Databricks. Okay, before going to the streaming data, let's try to understand what is streaming data, okay, and how it is different from the batch data. So when we talk about the batch data, okay, we are actually talking about some time intervals here. When I say time interval, it means I wanted to process my data based on some time foundations or time intervals, right? Let's say I wanted to process my data hourly, or I wanted to process my data daily, or I wanted to process my data weekly, right? So I'm defining a time frame or I'm gonna process the data with a certain range bound, okay, intervals. So it means this is my source system, okay, this is my source system where I am getting the data, okay. Once the data is there, based on these time intervals, I'm gonna process this data into the target location. Let's take an example. Let's say if I'm talking about daily intervals, it means and when I talk about daily, I have to come up with a time frame or the specific time when I wanted to start my job, right? It will be a job, right, which will trigger every day, every hour, every week. So when I say daily, let's say I am saying 9 p.m. It's an example, right? So whatever data has been collected so far till 9 o'clock, maybe two files, one file, okay, with the information, whatever is there in the source, the job will trigger correct at 9 o'clock. It will read the data from the source and it will process the data into the target location. When we talk about hourly, it means let's say every hour we are running this job, it will read the data from the source every hour and then write into the target. Okay, it means the data is not that huge. We are able to process within an hour or we are able to process within a day, right? It's a good amount of data, but it's not a big data, you can say, okay. Or it's not, we are not talking here about the maybe billions and millions of data, right? But when we talk about the streaming data, right, here we are actually talking about a very huge amount of data, okay, and the data which needs to be processed immediately, okay. When I say immediately, it means in the source, let's say I received some file at this specific time, I wanted to process that file immediately to my target location. I'll not wait for any batch, okay. I want this, it came here, it should process. Again, new file came, it should process. New file comes, it should process. New file comes, it should process. So it's a continuous flow of data into a in real time, basically, right? You see, the data is there, but we are processing now here. But here, it's in the real time, right? As soon as it lands into our source system, we should process it. So that's what the streaming data is. And we generally use streaming processes when we are actually reading millions and billions of data every hour. I'm not talking about in a day, even every hour. So that's where we need the streaming data, okay. So if you talk about a definition, you can say streaming data needs to process near real time as it's integrated. I mean, it is as it's ingested for analytics, okay. So that we need to process this data into real time. That's it, okay. Let just try to keep it simple, okay. Now what are the components when we talk about this data processing, right? I'm not talking about the batch, I'm not talking about the stream, I'm talking about the components of any processing here in any of these, right? So there will be some sources, as we said, and some targets, right? So now we should be having one input source, one target, and one job. So these are the three components we will talk about. Okay, now let's see how or what all functions are given by the Spark to handle these type of data. So when we talk about the batch data, Spark gave us one function to read, that is called read, and one function to write, that is called write. Same way, if we are dealing with the streaming data, there is another function given for read stream and another function to write stream. Okay, so it's very easy. Make sure this S should be in capital letters. Okay, now the overall syntax also remains same. So when I say spark dot read dot format, and I will specify what kind of data I'm gonna read. Let's say I wanted to read all CSV file. Once it is there, I can store this data into a data frame, and then I'll say tf.write.format, and then maybe the format, let's say delta. Okay, same way in the streaming as well. As far as the syntax concerned, it will be same. It's just the method. Okay, and then CSV, and then once it is stored into the df, you can pass this df to streaming, write stream, and then format. Okay, so you see the difference, right? It's more about the functions which are already given by the Spark, but you should understand the internal logic, internal reason why we are gonna use streaming and when we are gonna use batch, right? That is more important, right? So that when you are dealing with the customer, you can tell them, right, okay, if you wanted to process your data in real time, just go ahead with the streaming. If you wanted to process your data into some intervals, right, then you should better go with the batch data, right? Because it will be costly for sure, and it will be cheaper, right? So it depends on the size of data, the requirement of the customer, right, when they actually want their data to be processed into the target location. So enough of theory, let's quickly move to the practical part. Let's see how we can handle it. So before going to the coding part, I'll show you, I have loaded few files here, few CSV files, few sample CSV files, and each of them has some records, maybe 9 or 7 or something, I don't remember exactly. And each of these CSV files has 3 columns in it. Okay, I'm just keeping all of them as a string just to create a demo, right? And I'll quickly start writing the code, right? Spark.read, as I said, and then format, right? And since I said I'm using a CSV file, I can say CSV and then load. Now you have to give the path wherever you are keeping your data, right? If it is in the blob, you can give blob information, or the path. If you are keeping in the DFS, obviously nobody is keeping in the DBFS. Generally we keep in the location, storage locations, and from where we use it. But just to show you how we can handle the data into streaming, I'm just showing you. Okay, so if you guys notice, I'm using a read. It means it's a batch data. But if I say read stream, see, it's an inbuilt function. Okay, read stream, it will read the data as a stream. Okay, I don't want to give the file name. I'll say whatever there in this folder, whatever comes into this folder, you just process it. Okay, now if I try to run it, it will give me an error. Okay, I'll show you. It will ask me for the schema. See, so whenever you are dealing with the streaming data source, you should always specify the schema. Make sure. If I say stream, right, it will not even ask me the, if I say read, right, it will not ask me the schema. See, I'll show you. See, it works. So that is one of the difference, okay, when you're dealing with the reads and when you're dealing with the read stream. So how to specify the schema? You can have schema function inbuilt, and you can pass the schema variable over here, right, the schema which we created, and that's it. You're good to go, right? Few times you will try to read this data, okay, what is there in the data frame, but I would suggest never use the display, because your data is it's an unbounded data, right? If you try to use the display, it will keep on running, and your further subsequent operations will not run in that case. Okay, so avoid using display command here. Okay, I'll not use any kind of transformation, any filtration or anything. Okay, I'll simply go and write this data now. So write. Now if by mistake you're using write instead of write stream, right, it will also give you an error. Let me show you. I'll say I wanted to write it in a delta format, and I wanted to basically give the path, let's say. Okay, dot options, I'll say options, and then I'll say path. It's up to you however you wanted to specify. And the path, let's say, close it. I'll create another folder. Okay, demo streaming, copy the path, and I'll paste it here. Okay, so whatever it will read, it will write into this particular location. Okay, and then once you specify the path df.write.this, then you can run it. It will say this is a streaming data set, you cannot use write function on it. Okay, so you have to use write stream, and if you run this it won't do anything in the stream. See, one only but three were given. Okay, let me see what mistake I did here. So path, and then I gave the path inside it. That's it. Oh, options I said, that is my bad. Option. Okay, so if I run it, see, it's not doing anything actually. It is just telling you that it's a streaming data frame. Okay, so when you actually wanted to start your streaming data, you can use one function called start. If I try to run it now it will start writing it, but again it will give us one error. Let's see, let's take a look. Why I'm showing you the error, so that you will be aware about the errors as well. See, the checkpoint location must be specified, right? So now you have to provide one checkpoint location. Okay, what is checkpoint we'll talk about in the next lecture, but let me show you. Or in a one liner, if I say checkpoint is a place, or is a again a folder, you can say in a layman terms, where Spark will be keeping some information, right? Like how much data it read already, or what all files it already read, so the next time it will not read the same files, or what all file which has been read so far is written into the target location, so that you will not be writing the same file again and again, right? So those kind of informations basically checkpoint stores. Okay, so I'll provide the checkpoint now here. Same thing, you can copy it from here instead of writing. Let me do it, waste much of time. And then I will say this is my path, checkpoint path. Let me do it right away. We cannot have same path, so what I will do, I'll change a little bit here. I'll say this is checkpoint location. Okay, I don't have any folder, so I'm assuming that it will create. Let's see. And there you go. So your streaming data started running. Okay, it is streaming now in the real time. You can read this data also. Okay, so let me show you spark.read.format. Then I'm trying to read the delta files, load from this location, right? Okay, and then I will say dot display. See, 27 rows. So as of now 27 rows. So whatever data is there, it is already been loaded. So I'm not doing any change. See, what I will do now, I'll just upload few more files and we'll see how it actually processes. We are not running our job again and again. The job is already started. Let's say 4 and 5. Done. I'll run this command again just to see what has been written. See, it became 45. Again, I'll load one more file. See how quickly it reads, right? As soon as it lands, it is here. See, 54, right? So that's how streaming works. As soon as the data is there, it will process the data and you will see the data in your target location. So I think that's it for this video, but we will talk about some more limitations when we try to read or write the data in this particular way, right? Because if you try to wanted to handle the duplicates, right, or deduplicate logic here, it will be really tough because we are dealing with the unbounded data. So how to handle those limitations we will talk about in my next lecture or my next video. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video. Bye.